Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. Happy early signing day to everybody out there. Hopefully if you're watching this video as a Texas fan, you were pleased with our class. We got signed today, top 10 class thus far because it's not official until February. But of the 16 guys we signed, or the 16 guys that were committed, all of them did sign today, including Bijan Robinson, who many were worried about, into that whole drama there. But that didn't end up being the drama of the day. We'll get to that in a second. But first, our sponsors, Boss's Ranch, phenomenal product, guys. I say it every video, phenomenal product. Guys, go out and get yourself a bottle of Boss's Ranch, HEB cold produce. They have some wonderful commercials out there. They've got their caveman series going on right now. Go check them out. A lot of fun, real short, 20, 30-minute clips. But they also got a product that backs it all up, right? So it's Red River Ranch flavor. I was recommending it to somebody today that was asking about it. So guys, Boss's Ranch, HEB cold produce. Check them out. So first off, we thought it was going to be a relatively smooth day expected after, obviously we had lost the commitments, and I may touch on that later in this video. But in terms of who was expected to sign, we had a good idea how this day was going to go. No real opportunities to flip other players or any of our guys to get flipped. But there was some flipping being done by one Tom Herman. And for those of you who did not see it, he was in the coach's war room on LHN. And during the broadcast, they zoomed over. They didn't realize they were on camera. And he gives the double finger salute to the cameras, Brian Carrington, and they're clearly in there having a good time, but wasn't the most tasteful looking moment for the University of Texas, and I get it. And Tom Herman later did apologize for his act in the press conference later today. Now, personally, I thought it was funny. I'm not going to beat him up for that. I know the people that are looking to find anything negative with Herman or trying to get him out of here, that's just more fuel to the fire. I know other coaches and other teams are going to use that against us. And why would you want your kid to go play for somebody like that? People, like, we can't, let the man live. That's where I'm at. It was funny. They clearly were joking about it. I'm glad he didn't make too much of a big deal out of it and just keep moving forward with what is supposed to be a very, very positive day, a life-changing day for all these young men and their families. So let's start with the headliner of the class, Bijan Robinson out of Arizona, 5-star running back. By most recruiting services, probably the second-ranked running back in the country behind Zachary Evans. He comes to Texas. He's the only recruit we have coming from out of state, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, especially with some of the other recent activities going on, I believe he's the only 5-star to come to the Big 12 this year. And so we did land one, and Bijan Robinson, he holds up despite us not having an offensive coordinator. And you have to give credit to Brian Carrington, Tim Beck, who's been one of our best recruiters, especially in the state of Arizona, and Stan Drayton. They did a masterful job of seeing this recruitment through. He committed a little bit ago, and they held it all the way through, despite the shaky season, despite even Roshan moving to running back and USC coming in there and gaining some momentum. They held true to him, and he was pretty sound in everything he said throughout. I know people were getting a little nervous today, and I kept saying the brothers on West Coast time, guys. Don't forget, because all our guys are here in Texas, right? The other 15 guys are Texas boys, so. They had their signing day at their school, and they had to go through that process. So really excited for Bijan. In terms of the type of player that we're getting, he is a dynamic running back with a grown man body already. Now they have him listed at 5'11", 195, and that leads me to what we'll do with him in terms of the Anthony McKnight when he gets here, because the recent trend with our running backs, whether it's a Keontae Ingram or a Jordan Whittington, is we've actually added a little bit of weight on those guys. Ingram, I think we got him over 220 now, and Whittington, I think, goes around 215. My thing with Bijan is he's already got a phenomenal body from my view, and if we're going to go with this committee approach where a lot of guys are going to be getting the football, I don't know if necessarily the move is to bulk him up and get him even bigger. And I understand you want to get the players stronger as they get to the collegiate level, but with the recent injuries and things we've had, and I think it's something to consider. Maybe leaving him lean the way he is and having him be an explosive guy for you that's going to factor into the rotation. Now he's not going to be an early enrollee, so he won't have all that extra time like some of the other 8 guys that we'll talk about that are the early enrollees will get in terms of weight room and time with Yancey. But I'm so excited in terms of, the dynamic. I look at a guy a few years ago, J.K. Dobbins goes to Ohio State, and you guys see the type of player he's become. And the reason why I use that comparison is because they play in the same type of offense. Now, I think Bijan is even more explosive and can do some things receiving out of the backfield. You see some of the highlight reel catches that he makes, the way he's able to run the wheel route, which is a big component in our offense with our running backs, something that we saw Ingram and Roshan run that route constantly this season. And he fits right in with what we want to do. I mean, he could play in any offense, and he's a grown-ass man. Speed, cutback ability, his vision, and he has a hell of a stiff arm. Half the videos you just see dudes falling off him. I think the only measure of concern that you can even have for him is just level of competition there in Arizona. But from my understanding, they beat up on Keely Ringo's team and other good football teams over there in the state of Arizona. So very, very excited to have him on board. I'm excited that he's our highest rated recruit and kind of the headliner. But we have this is a very, very good class and a well-deserved top 10 class. So we now have 2 quarterbacks coming in. Hudson Card, Jaquindon Jackson. Hudson Card, way of Lake Travis High School. Jaquindon Jackson from Duncanville. Duncanville will be playing North Shore in the state championship this Saturday. Let's break down the 2 quarterbacks because, again, we have to give our kudos again to Tim Beck and the staff for securing, keeping that quarterback room strong, following up a Roshan Johnson, a Casey Thompson, a Sam Ellinger, and now getting 2 guys coming in. Now, Coach Samples, starting with Jaquindon Jackson, Coach Samples did come out today and confirm that he does have a torn ACL, I believe, in the left knee. From the shot that he took against Rockwall, which is really, really disappointing for the young man. The good thing is, obviously Texas is honoring his commitment. He's, I think, the number 28 overall player in the country in ESPN. Been one of the best quarterbacks in high school football all year. They've gone everywhere and played everybody who wanted the smoke, including St. John's from DC, and I'll have an antidote for them in a second. But just impressive young man, young leader, a guy that's a leader in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Guys attract to him for whatever reason. You can just tell by the way the young man carried himself at their at their signing day and their press conference they did. Really, really impressive young man and perfect fit for Tom Herman's power spread offense. We've been talking a lot about not moving from the air raid and Tom wanting to stick with his scheme. When you look at a Jaquindon Jackson, these are the type of guys that makes sense on why he wants to do what he wants to do. And you see the success that a guy like a Justin Fields is having. You see the success that a JT Barrett had. And he's got more physical tools than JT Barrett did. And JT Barrett was was almost a Heisman candidate under Tom Herman. So Again, getting the opportunity to rehab, getting the opportunity to learn from Sam Ellinger in a loaded quarterback room. And look, we know it's probably not going to last forever in terms of that room. Either position changes will be made or guys will move on. You see the success that transfer quarterbacks have had recently. It's been incredible. 3 in a row for the Heisman with transfer quarterbacks. But I say all that to say you can never have enough in that room and a brain trust and guys learning from each other and pushing each other. So while he will be rehabbing, it's an opportunity, just his infectious energy and for him to learn, I think will be very, very beneficial. As far as a player comp, I mean, he's got some Cam Newton in him. When you think back to what they were able to do at Auburn, when Cam came around, he's not as big as Cam. He's about 6'2", 220. Probably will get a little bit bigger, But I look at him like a Cam, like, think back Mississippi State like a Dak Prescott. But JJ's got a rocket. He has a beautiful deep ball. He was showing that off all playoffs. And he's a dynamic runner. He's a dynamic athlete with the football in his hand. That's why they've talked about him playing several different positions. I don't think that should be taken as a slight. I think that just goes to show how incredible of athlete he is. But I will give the young man credit for this, and this is how he rose up the rankings himself. He's refined his craft as a passer and command of the Duncanville offense. And he was a little raw before, where he was classified as athlete. Now, without a doubt, and you look at UT's official ledger, he's a quarterback. So excited to have him on board. Best of luck with his rehab. And he'll have however you want to classify the red shirt this year. But the goal will be to get him ready for the quarterback competition in 2021. Now, the other quarterback that we brought in, Hudson Card, also highly regarded, finished like second or third in the Elite 11 competition. And he's another guy that's a dynamic athlete and fits the mold of what we want to do in this offense. Now, he's not the power run guy. He's more of a quick twitch. He actually was a former wide receiver when Matthew Baldwin was there and Garrett Wilson, all those guys, before he took over for Matthew Baldwin after he left for Ohio State. Hudson Card was a 1,000-yard receiver, really impressive guy, athletically. One of the things I love about him, his competitiveness. They were getting their ass whooped against North Shore this past week, and he didn't give up. You see him still out there making plays, arms, leg, whatever he has to do. He's become better and better as a passer, very, very precise. My concern with him is the body, very, very rail thin right now. I believe he's they have him listed 6'2", 185. So they're going to have to work on Hudson's body to get him there for college football. And some guys are always going to be skinnier. I mean, you look at a guy like a Joe Burrow, who was the number 24 ranked, according to Rivals, number 24 ranked dual threat quarterback coming out of Ohio back in 2015, and was a 3-star. And you saw what he became, just working on his craft, working on his body, and becoming the player that he is today. There's some similarities there with Hudson Card, especially when you factor in that Tom Herman recruited both these guys. Now, Hudson Card, being from Austin, Texas, that's another strength that I have with him, the program that he comes from. Lake Travis, you look at, the Brewer brothers, you look at Baker Mayfield, and I know y'all not going to like the last name I say, but Garrett Gilbert, and those guys, Garrett Gilbert was a Gatorade Player of the Year out of Lake Travis. So they have a great pedigree. They prepare their quarterbacks for the college game very, very well, and it's going to be great to see Hudson and Jaquindon Jackson develop and find their way in this UT program. I'm very, very excited for those guys. Now, guys, we have 8 early enrollees coming in. So let's go through those. Hudson Card is 1. Xavion Alford, Vernon Broughton, Sawyer Gorham Welsh, who was the recent commit. We talked about him yesterday on the live chat. Jake Majors, Logan Parr, Troy Emery, and Jarian Thompson, the safety out of Lufkin. So those are the 8 guys we have coming in that will be early enrollees. I heard that Bijan can't graduate early because of school rules or something like that in their district or whatnot. So the rest of the folks that are part of this signing class will be here in the next fall. But just with the early enrollees, guys that jump out to me that can help right away, I'm actually going to start with a Vernon Broughton, who with his body and his skill set, I talked about when he committed to Texas, I talked about his ability to finish tackles. He's one of those guys that if we're going to move to a 4-3, he's going to compete right away to be in that 2 deep. Very similar to what Tavondre Sweat was able to kind of pull out for himself. You can make the argument Vernon Broughton's the best defensive player in this Texas class, one of the best defensive linemen in the state of Texas. Hopefully, he's able to come in, stay healthy, work on his body, and get him there. And I think we've done a good job with our big guys and getting them where they need to be. But it's going to be interesting to see how he's going to be utilizing Chris Ash. I had a good idea under the 3-3-5 because he's a guy that is perfect if you want to play multiple. He can do, you see him on his tape, he plays a lot at the end, but he'll kick inside and blow up a guard or blow past a guard. So there's some things he can do from a three tech standpoint in the 4-3 that can really, really help us, and maybe a little bit more shiftier than what Amaro Ojomo may be able to give us. So there's going to be opportunities for Vernon Broughton to get snaps right away, and I'm glad he's an early enrollee for us. Xavier Alford, one of the guys I love just personality-wise. I told y'all he reminds me personality and the way he plays like a Earl Thomas. And I know I'm throwing out some lofty things right now, but damn it, it's signing day and we're optimistic right now. And I'm optimistic about Xavier Alford, who completely shut down his recruitment when he committed to Texas. He has been all in. He's actually been one of the kids that's been trying to recruit other kids to come in, and he's here to try to say, hey, we want to bring back the right to say we are DBU. So, him being more of the rangy type guy, and somebody who can play, is sound in the run and the pass game. I like his ability to find the football. He's a magnet to the ball. 6 foot, I think 183 or whatever. So it's another guy they're going to work on his body, and get him to where he needs to be. But many also have said, hey, that could be a guy that long term can give you a lot of the things that Brandon Jones gave us the last 3-4 years. So very, very excited about him, and another guy who will be an early enrollee. Sawyer Gordon Welch out of Longview. We talked about him in the live chat, but he's actually a classic 3-4 defensive end. So another person who will see where they move him around. He's a big kid, 6'4", 270, but super productive. Just gets to the quarterback, high motor kid. The 3 stars is puzzling to me, to be honest with you. And I would love to hear from those in the comments why he's rated so low. But no problem. The Texas guys, the coaches, Tom Herman and them, have made their evaluations, and he's here, and I'm with it. I like the productivity, especially at that size. So somebody that can, we'll see where he develops and what position he ends up playing along the defensive line. Jake Majors is interesting because he right now plays tackle, but they're probably going to try to move him to center, which we really need. We need some competition at center. I know we're going to have Rafidi Jamai and Derek Kerstetter potentially. I'm not sure if he kicks over, but a Jake Majors coming in for a guy to replace potentially a Zach Shackelford, who was also coming out of high school when he flipped from K-State to us, a guy that hadn't played center before. We moved him from like guard over to center, and he was our 4-year starter. So could we potentially see the same thing from a guy like a Jake Majors, and him kind of putting his bid in early, because that 2021 offensive line class is ridiculous. So curious to see what he does. Logan Parr, another guy who's really undersized right now, 6'4". They have him at 275. But, somebody that has the ability to move well in space and play, block against the run. I need to study more on Logan a little bit more, but he is an early enrollee as well. And then Jaron Thompson out of Lufkin, the brother that's a safety. He's a little bit more longer, and he hits. One of the things I noticed about him is when the ball's in the air, and I said this before, he gets there, he will smack you, period, right? So, and I also like the fact that he seems to have really good hands. He's made some really impressive interceptions to me, and taken some really, really good sound angles, things we've struggled with here. So I like the fact that when they made the evaluation on the player, they get a guy who struggled with a particular thing, and then he helps with that. The brother that ended up going to Auburn from Duncanville, I think his name was Chris Thompson Jr. This was a good person in terms of Jaron Thompson to bring in to fill that need that we had when we thought we were going to get him, also from Duncanville. So excited about all these young guys we have coming in. Other people that I think could potentially have an impact, even though they may not get here until the summertime. Prince Dorba, right off the bat, Highland Park. He's been one of the more higher profile high school football players in the state. Incredible story, incredible performances in the state championship game, being the defensive MVP. Whenever you come in a state title game and have 4 or 5 sacks, it tells you everything you need to know. And he's a flat out unadulterated pass rusher. And that's what we need if we're going to be moving to trying to generate pressure with 4 and 5 guys, right? So there's going to be an opportunity there. If he can master 1 or 2 moves and show that right off the bat, I don't see any reason why he can't be in there at least as a third down pass rusher to help us, because I don't see too many guys that are better raw natural pass rushers currently on this Texas roster or in this recruiting class than Prince Dorbah. Really, really excited to have him on board. Keaton Crawford's another guy that stands out to me from John Tyler. Did he come? Yeah, John Tyler, who is going to have an opportunity to earn some snaps in the nickel. Now, to me, he can play corner everywhere, and I love his body, his physicality. He has a very similar body. I said this before to Antoine Davis. So when I look at a Keaton Crawford and him playing, John Tyler seemed to be a little shaky to me this year and down in terms of the talent when I saw them play, but he does everything for them, and he's a baller. He's a football player. And when I say that, he's not afraid to stick his nose in there on the run. Plays the ball well. He picked off Haynes King when they played the kid that's going to A&M, the quarterback recruit. He picked him off in the end zone, made an incredible play. And he's got some quandary in him. I think some of y'all will remind. He's a little bit bigger, but in terms of the fight, I love that from Keaton Crawford, and excited again now I'm on board. I hope you guys, the recurring theme here is excitement. Now, I'm not trying to kill the party, because I do want to talk about Troy O'Meary. 6'5", 220 from Sugarland. We're gonna need him to come with it, because we had Quentin Johnston out of Temple who decided to flip to TCU, and he was probably the third or fourth rated receiver in the state of Texas, and an incredible athlete. Tran talked about him winning the dunk contest last night, and some of the athletic feats that he's had and the athletic catches, and he kind of fits the mold of the type of wide receivers we've had here and that have been in this offense. Troy has all that too, and Troy, one thing about him, they moved him around. He started a game at quarterback this year. He plays everything, so he's also got some great athletic traits. A guy who at one point was committed to A&M and moved over to us, and he's got a great body type. Some people have even looked at him potentially playing defense and being an edge guy. So how can he help us? And hopefully we hit on that evaluation to make up for the loss of a Quentin Johnston, because whenever you lose a guy like that, it puts more pressure on the guys that are currently in the class. So really excited to see what we get out of that young man. And then Andre Carrick. This is probably the last guy I'm going to speak on if I haven't. I tried to go through everybody here, and I know Deshaun Harrison out of Hutto, who I've actually personally seen play in person, who has the body type and the type of abilities that we've been missing here in a while. Since a DJ Monroe or Dajay, was here when he was returning kicks. So there's some things I could see from him that could help. I don't know if he's healthy or not. I kept hearing things about him having potentially a knee issue, but very explosive kid, quick twitch. He's a guy that's just a playmaker when he gets the ball in his hands. And some of those guys that OU's been killing it with the last few years that we're finally starting. So we don't just more diversifying our wide receiver set, what I'm excited about. But going back to Andre Carrick from the DFW area, who's been one of the rapid developing offensive linemen, and every year it seems like we as Texas, the one of the things I will give our program credit for is we've been hitting recently on some of these tackles that are kind of underrated, like a Connor Williams, like a Samuel Cosme. And Carrick is right there in terms of a prospect. He's got some nasty in him. He looks like a future left tackle to me. And a guy who is also got that rare ability, is even though he moves very well in space, he can also go forward and maul, and he wants to put his hands on people and get them to the ground. A lot of people on the ground in his tape. So this whole class, 16, which is rather small for us, but that's also, when you have the seniors going out, people coming in, the amount of scholarships we have. But out of the 16, for us to have 8 coming in early is great. Tom Herman did say today that he'll probably look at 4 to 5 possible, I believe, maybe even hitting up the portal and seeing what they can do. And I mentioned this before, as Chris Ash continues to make his evaluations, as the coaching staff makes their evaluations throughout bowl prep, they'll start to realize what they have and what they don't have, kind of take inventory, right? So what things would you guys like to see in terms of, if we have to go to the transfer portal? Right off the top of my head, linebacker comes into play, and that's what I'm saying. This bowl game is going to be really, really big from a linebacking perspective. But outside of the Tom Herman double flip, and it was a pretty quiet day. I mean, for us, which is good. I mean, we the last thing we need is somebody else to fall off the board, right? So to finish up the way we did, I'm impressed with it. Across the country, Jace McClellan deciding to not sign with OU and flipping his commitment. I don't know if it's official yet to Alabama, but I've been hearing about that. And then Rakeem Jarrett, St. John's. I mentioned St. John's earlier in this video, who is a 5-star wide receiver. You think of people from my area, because I'm from DC area, the Stephon Diggs of the world, and even going back to Percy Harvin. He's got that level of ability, and for him to flip from LSU to Maryland and stay home is a huge win for Mike Locksley. Huge win, and a big. I know LSU has a terrific class. That's still a big hit. That kid gives you. I mean, he's going to be as good as you'll see in college football in a few years. You just watch. Now, he may not be able to shine too much at Maryland, kind of what happened with Stephon Diggs, but everybody knows who he is now for the Minnesota Vikings. So just some other things that stood out to me across the country throughout the day. But I'm curious to get everybody's thoughts. This is our signing day prep. And again, thank you to our sponsors, Boss's Ranch here. It's been fun running through the class and seeing all these guys' highlights again today. And again, tremendous moment for these families. For those of you who saw Emmitt Smith, his son today, EJ Smith, signing with Stanford, and him speaking out as a parent, and that's what good looks like from a parental standpoint. But it's an awesome day, and I love signing day, and glad we got this class in. Excited for our guys and to see them develop and grow into young men helping this program. So, guys, Horns always up.